Hello, everyone. In this video, we are going to talk about the top 10 project management systems in 2025. So let's dive right in. My name is Sam Gupta. I am principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent vendor agnostic technology advisory firm. We help our clients with system selection, change management, digital transformation strategy. On that note, let's go back to today's topic, which is the top 10 project management systems in 2025. When you look at the project management systems, this is not meant to be a module inside an ERP. Those are the systems that we generally don't consider as part of this list. It has to be a siloed, best of breed system. That's how we define the project management category. Overall, the layers that you are going to have with the project management systems, some of those layers are going to be very operational in nature, but sometimes they are also going to be financial, depending upon the industry, depending upon the business model. Some industries do care for those financial layers. In other industries, for example, if you talk about software development, tech, marketing agencies, they isolate the operational aspect from the financial. They don't necessarily care as much for the financial aspect. So we are going to differentiate in all of those two and which systems are going to provide which experience. But each of them are going to be designed from the internal project management. In general, with the internal project management, the cost tracking is not as relevant as you would find with the external project management, because you really need to collaborate with clients in the external project management category, and then you need to have appropriate reporting as well as the milestone tracking. So that's a very different category, but it's a very similar project management system. So each of these systems are designed from all of those perspectives. And then you have the newer categories as well. For example, the collaboration centric project management are going to be very different. The project management systems that are designed for ad hoc use cases are going to be very different from the legacy traditional project management systems. So we are going to touch on all of those layers. Now, the criteria that we have used to compile this list is product share, acquisition strategy. If that is going to be focused on project management category, they generally rank higher on this particular list. Product roadmap, community, ecosystem, win rate, technology strategy, as well as investors. So those are some of the factors that we have used. So now let's look at the list. Number 10 on our list is Workzone. And Workzone is majorly penetrated among the ad and marketing agencies. And those are the companies that are going to find this absolutely beneficial. It does have very rich functionality for these ad and marketing agencies, but the interface might not be as modern, as intuitive as some of the other systems that we have on this list. So some of these strengths to keep in mind when you are going to be slightly more advanced in your project management capabilities. Let's say you have the PMO organization and you care for that portfolio view, etc. For those use cases, Workzone is going to be a great fit. You also have very granular permissions that you can set at the project as well as at the document level that you might not find with some of the other systems. Even the newer systems might be slightly poorer for that permission and workflow security management, etc. And some of the templates that it has, it's very strong in all of those areas. The limitations that you need to keep in mind from Workzone perspective is, again, technology is not as modern. And when you look at those advanced batch features, they might not be as rich, as detailed, as built as you would find with some of the other systems that are slightly richer with their capabilities. And overall, the workflow capabilities might be limited as well. So that's number 10. Number 9 on our list is teamwork. They don't have as big ecosystem just because they might not be private equity owned, at least the larger private equity. For example, let's say if you look at systems such as your ClickUp, Monday.com, Smartsheet, etc., they are very well funded, so they are going to have much more R&D budget. Their partner ecosystem is going to be much more stronger. So teamwork, Workzone, these systems are not going to get as much attention, as much R&D budget as those systems. So teamwork, the biggest beauty that you're going to find with teamwork is if you're looking for those PSA centric scenarios, which is going to be your professional services automation, that's a different category. Generally, that category is more relevant for your external project management, the client management. For those use cases, teamwork is going to be a great fit. So some of these trends to keep in mind is the whole client invoicing piece, the milestones, the project, the timesheet management, all of those become relevant in those PSA centric scenarios. And if you care for that, then teamwork is going to be a great system for that. The cost tracking as well as the utilization is going to be a great fit. But for the most part, if you're looking for that ERP centric experience, it might not be as great, but at least you are going to get some version of the cost as well as utilization that might not be available with the other systems that are primarily designed for that internal project management. They just exclude that to make it easier to use for the operational teams. You also have the unlimited client collaboration with the paid plans, and that's going to be a huge plus as well. Some limitations to keep in mind is the learning curve is going to be steep. And the reason why learning curve is steep with any of the systems that are going to embed those financial layers is because for operational teams, it becomes very hard to use these systems. So depending upon what you care for, do you care for the ease of use for the operational teams, or do you care for that cost traceability or the financial insight in general? With the systems that prioritize the operational aspect, the financial view is going to be after the fact, which means you would not have as much cost tracking, as much financial control as you are processing these transactions. So that's a real difference between these systems. So in this case, the learning curve is going to be steep a little bit just because they are trying to accommodate the cost as well as they are trying to provide you insight from the utilization perspective as well. Overall, with teamwork, the ecosystem, the integration are not going to be as developed, and it's also expensive. Some users report that. And again, the reason for that is because you are going to get a lot more capabilities. So their price point is a little higher compared to the other systems on this list. And that's number 9. Number 8 on our list is Kata. And if you're not familiar with Kata, they are part of Salesforce ecosystem. They have 2 different products, and both of those products have slightly different user experience, even though they are functionally similar in terms of what they do. But these 2 products are part of the same suite. So depending upon which user experience you care for, you can choose either of those products. They both also have limitations in terms of number of users. So these products are not necessarily designed for the smaller companies. So they are probably going to have at least 30 user requirement. So if you care for a PSA, which is going to have the milestone tracking, the cost traceability, even though the financial state is still very disconnected because it's not ERP-like experience where you are going to get consolidated financial view and the accurate cost traceability, but at least you are getting this more from the operational perspective. And this is going to be, even though it is going to be difficult to use, but still easier. The reason for that is because of that disconnected financial state. So the more you are going to embed or consolidate these processes, the harder the system becomes. So again, depending upon whether you care for the cost embeddedness, cost traceability or ease of use, depending upon which teams are going to have more say in your decision making. Sometimes the operational teams have higher say and they go for operationally disconnected system just because they can move faster with those systems, and then they don't necessarily care as much for the financial perspective. Then financial teams are going to operate in the after the fact fashion, and they are going to do this after the fact. That's completely okay. Architecture, there's no problem as such with that, but that's the design choice that you need to make. So in this case, you are still going to get the milestone tracking, the client side of the financial management that you are looking for from the project management perspective. You will get the resource scheduling, utilization, etc. So that's a plus with Cantata. But the minus is going to be that it might be slightly more difficult for the smaller companies, and then you would require expensive implementation with Cantata as well. So that's some negatives for Cantata, and that's number 8. Number 7 on our list is Jira. And Jira is going to be ideal for software development firms. And in general, these software development firms are going to have very large internal organizations and PMO organizations, and their needs are very different compared to a professional services firm that might be executing a project for their clients. In their case, the cost may not be as relevant factor. That's why they like Jira a little bit more. In general, Jira is going to have much richer ecosystem when you talk about the requirement management, the QA, the bug tracking, all of the workflows and the processes that are going to be relevant from the software development perspective. They are going to be built as part of Jira. So some of these trends to keep in mind is overall ecosystem. I think I already touched on that. If you care for a system that is going to offer both agile software development as well as internal project tracking, then this could be a great system. Some limitations to keep in mind is it's not designed for those collaborative ad hoc workflows the way the likes of Airtable, Monday.com, etc. are going to be. They are designed for very different purposes. Now, even though Jira and the Atlassian, the company that owns Jira, they have introduced a collaborative product as well that is going to be very similar to your Airtable, Monday.com, but they are not going to have as high a penetration, at least across those ad hoc scenarios, and they still have to comply with their existing technologies, and that's a challenge that they are running into in modernizing their platform. So with Jira, you would require a lot more add-ons in general, but those add-ons are not as tricky just because the financial layers are not as embedded. So it's just easier for them to be able to accommodate all of these add-ons. But in general, you would require that. So sometimes that does increase a little bit risk in terms of the communication, how these add-ons are going to communicate. You are going to have a lot of contracts, so that's a risk that you inherit. But overall, that's a negative for Jira. And again, it's not necessarily designed for those external client-centric scenarios. So that's number 7. Number 6 on our list is Airtable. And Airtable would fall under that ad hoc collaboration-centric project management category, and it's a very different product. It's not meant to be comparable with other legacy project management software. So for the most part, if you care for that structured project management, if you have very defined project management where you care for cost tracking, etc., then Airtable may not be the best fit. Where it is going to be a great fit, and you just don't know about your processes. You have many different project organizations inside the company, and they all have very ad hoc processes, and they collaborate a lot from the client perspective. In general, with the consulting organizations, with the smaller organizations, the client experience takes priority over the cost tracking, utilization, resource management, etc. For those scenarios, Airtable may be a great fit. Airtable also has many different product suites included as part of their bundle. And if you are going to be limited on your implementation budget, then Airtable could be a great fit for both those scenarios as well, because for the most part you can implement this in more of the DIY fashion. But as such, if you want to replicate the same functionality as the other project management systems are going to have, that will require substantial consulting help. It's not as easy to implement, because for the most part systems such as your Airtable, they are meant to be more of the technical platform. You can mold them in many different shapes, but that does require a lot of expertise to be able to mold, and they are going to have their own constraints as well. So you are not going to get the same experience that you might get with the other traditional project management systems. But if you care for that ad hoc as well as collaboration centric experience, then Airtable could be a great fit, and that's number 6. Number 5 on our list is Monday.com. And Monday.com is a very similar system as Airtable. There are going to be nuances in terms of how they are going to price their product, and they are going to have much higher penetration among the project management teams and companies that do project management. Airtable has higher penetration among marketing centric use cases. Monday.com is going to have much higher penetration among PMO organizations. Monday.com also has some penetration in the CRM use cases as well, but for the most part, they are very comparable products, and that's number 5. Number 4 on our list is Smartsheet. And again, Smartsheet is a very comparable product as your Monday.com as well as your Airtable as well. But with a Smartsheet, it was always adopted a lot more among the project management companies. So with Monday.com, you have slightly fluid structure. The Smartsheet is going to have a lot more formulas, the way project managers think. So you are going to have a lot more capabilities from the project management perspective. The integration, the ecosystem, the companies that are consulting in the Smartsheet ecosystem are going to be very project focused. So that's a huge plus. But overall, again, Smartsheet, Monday.com, and Airtable, they are very similar system, and that's number 4. Number 3 on our list is Reich. And Reich is designed for internal project management. It does not have all of those layers from the PSA perspective, but if you care for that internal project management, so Reich is going to be a great fit for software development firms, but it is not going to have as deep layers from the software development perspective. For example, let's say if you look at the integration ecosystem with your Asana as well as Jira, they are going to have a lot more integration just because those products are a lot more utilized in the software development setting. So their integration ecosystem are going to be far richer. Reich is meant for slightly more structured project management, generalized project management, internal project management. And some of these trends to keep in mind from the Reich perspective is comprehensive operational project management capabilities. But again, those financial layers are not as embedded as part of the product. And customizable team and project organizations. So overall, the way the project structure is going to be, it's going to be far more intuitive compared to some of the categories such as your Smartsheet, Airtable, etc. They require a lot more molding. The Reich is going to come across as it is designed for project management organizations. So depending upon whether you care for that ad hoc experience or for structured experience, Reich could be a great fit. And then it does have the workflow security layers, which might be very similar to systems such as your Asana. So those are some of the strengths. The limitations that you are going to run into with Reich is you're not going to have as many out-of-the-box report built as part of the product. It does not have that. So you're looking at some consulting effort for that. And for the PSA centric use cases, it might not be the best fit, as well as the ad hoc and collaboration centric use cases, even though they might have some workflow. But again, the model is not necessarily designed for that, the kind of experience that you are going to get with the likes of a Smartsheet, Monday.com, etc. And that's number 3. Number 2 on our list is Asana. And Asana is very well penetrated for those internal project management scenarios as well. They are going to have much richer ecosystem compared to systems such as your Reich. And but again, it's very comparable for those internal project management scenario. It's very well adopted among marketing agencies, creative organizations, etc. They use for that. But again, when you are going to get into those financial scenarios, resource management, utilization, etc. So resource management, when you take the operational view of resources, that is doable with systems such as your Asana. But again, Asana, right, they are very comparable system. Asana is designed for slightly more structured project management scenario. It is not designed for as much collaboration as you are going to find with systems such as your Smartsheet, Monday.com, etc. And then you are going to have much deeper workflow security that you might not find with the other system. And so the limitations that you're looking at from the Asana perspective is not as intuitive for traditional project managers. So even though it is a structured system, but the way the layers are designed, they are meant to be slightly more fluid. It's not as fluid as a Smartsheet, Monday.com, but it's also fluid. So it sort of sits in between the structured as well as the collaborative system. So that's where you would require a lot more consulting effort to be able to customize the system for your use cases. So that's going to be a little negative. It may not be as proven with the other industries, such as your other than software or marketing. So that's going to be a little negative for Asana as well, and not necessarily fit for the PSA centric use cases. And that's number two. Number one on our list is ClickUp. And ClickUp is very well backed with very large private equity. And ClickUp provides that balance of both, which is going to be your ad hoc collaboration plus the structured project management. So it's not as structured as Asana, because Asana does use schema-centric database. The beauty of Monday.com, Airtable, etc., is that they use no schema database, and that's where they can provide a lot more ad hoc, unstructured experience. With ClickUp, you are going to get the best of both, which is going to be the structured model, the templates, so you don't require as much consulting help, but it is also designed for those collaborative experience. That's why ClickUp is so popular, especially among marketing agencies, tech development firms. But when you look at ClickUp, it might not have as a strong ecosystem as you are going to find with Jira, just because Jira has been in the market for a very long time, especially among software developers, etc. But ClickUp provide very different experience. For example, from the document-centric workflows, for the requirement management, for any sort of use cases that are going to require collaboration between your design teams. For that, ClickUp provides very rich experience. So for those operational use cases, ClickUp is going to be a great system. Some negatives to keep in mind from the ClickUp perspective. Again, get into those financial scenarios. And those financial scenarios is going to be things such as your resource utilization from the finance perspective, not just from the operations perspective, from the scheduling perspective. The scheduling is probably going to be fine with ClickUp, but when you look at the dollar amount of those resources, that might not be as accurate with ClickUp, because it's providing slightly more disconnected, siloed view, and it's not as embedded from the financial perspective. And that's what makes it easy to use compared to other systems that are going to have that financial perspective embedded as part of that as well. And not necessarily designed for those PSA centric use cases, the way your Kantadas of the world are going to be designed from the client collaboration. When you talk about the financial collaboration as well as cost tracking for those scenarios, ClickUp may not be the best fit. But ClickUp is a great system for the project management, and that's number one. If you enjoyed this video, we are going to include a detailed report that is going to have much deeper insight, so you might want to download that. And if you prefer audio form, then this podcast is also available on major podcasting platform. We publish these videos on a weekly basis, so you might want to hit the subscribe button if you don't want to miss those. On that note, thank you so much for tuning in. I'll see you in the next one.